And welcome to the Google Apps for Education Professional Development webinar featuring forms in Google Docs. We're going to go ahead and get started with the webinar. Sean Beavers, who is a Google Apps for Education certified trainer, will be leading this webinar. His slides are linked here on the page. You can see it is go.gl/cvx, capital H, lowercase b. I'll also put this address in the chat box for those of you who weren't able to type that fast enough. We're recording this webinar and uploading it to YouTube and have it available for viewing after today. You will have an email with all the information as well as links to Sean's resources. If you have any questions, please ask them in the question and answer box so that everyone can see the questions and benefit from the answers. I'll be monitoring it and answering as we go along, and we'll also save some questions for the end with Sean. So I'm going to go ahead and let Sean start his presentation. So you should be able to unmute yourself and share your desktop and begin to go through your presentation about forms in Google Docs.
Great. All right, let me pull this up here. All right, everybody see that?
Yeah, I can see it just fine. Thanks, Sean.
All right, so I just want to say thanks to Jenna and to Google for hosting today's webinar. There are some great upcoming webinars on advanced forms, which I believe is next week, and one on Embrace Your Inner Einstein using Google Apps for the Google Science Fair online, and Man Google Docs Classroom. So a chance, definitely check that out. A little bit about myself. I'm the technical consultant at TOIDA, which stands for Southwestern Ohio Instructional Technology Association. The 8 EdTech agencies in the state of Ohio that deliver professional development on integrating technology in the classroom. And we serve about 1,300 schools. So for today is, first of all, talk a little bit about what Google Forms are and, why would you want to use them. Based on creating a form, so through the steps, mailable to others, find data and suggestions for use. So are Google Forms. They are part of the Google Docs suite, which is included with Google Apps for Education. They create electronic forms and surveys, and you can deliver these to your recipients electronically as well. In a Google Docs spreadsheet right in your Google Docs account. A lot of reasons why you would want to use forms, but these are probably at the top of my list. And first and foremost is simplicity of use. Extremely easy to create great-looking forms or surveys that meet your needs or could meet the needs of your school or district. For a wide range of classroom applications, so there are ways to leverage the power of Google Forms in education. You can use them for lunch count, behavior, teaching reports, and the list goes on and on. I think really only limited by your imagination and your creativity. Variety of ways to distribute your forms. I know the biggest issues I faced when I taught 5th grade and 4th is trying to make sure that all the paperwork got returned to my classroom. And I think it's a real boon to be able to put these forms out there electronically and distribute them that way. Are collected automatically. So Google Forms will generate a spreadsheet, and all of the data as these forms are submitted are populated into that spreadsheet. You can easily evaluate your data. As this data comes in and fills in your spreadsheet, you can actually look at a summary of your responses, and you can also then take that data and create charts and Google Forms. Integrates with Google Sites, so if you want to embed this in your site, it's very easy to do that. I'll be a little bit later on how to do that. And last but not least, paperless classroom. This is becoming more and more prevalent as we look towards the cloud and also using mobile devices and reducing the amount of paper we use in schools. So begin the demo and kind of watch how to create a form. There's a link here, and this actually links to a survey that I created earlier. And so if everybody could take the time to fill it out, that would be fantastic.
I didn't put that URL also into the chat box, so if people can see the chat box, you can also get the URL there.
Great. With forms, the easiest thing to do would be to go to the website, and you can either sign into your personal Google account if you have one, or you could sign into your Google Ask for Education account. And signed in, you would navigate to Docs. At my Docs homepage, and there are 3 different ways that you could start to create a form. So you could create and then select form from there. You'll choose an existing spreadsheet that you have in your account, a sleep survey with data already spreadsheet, and I can go up to the form menu and create form, and it will automatically generate a form based on the top or the title of my columns. From one of the available templates. So if I click on Create New and go to From Template, click on Public Templates from one of the many different options that are available there. On the left-hand side, I can click on Forms. One of these different templates. So those, I'm going to start with a completely, so I'm going to click Create New and do Form. To Form, your sample questions are actually included. Is where you can put the title for your form, and then there's also space to include any information to help people fill out. Is create a form for a new student survey. I'm going to type the title of my form up here at the top. And include a little bit of text to help people fill it out. And when you create a new form, you're going to have 2 sample questions, and over to the right, you have 3 buttons. So the pen button will allow me to edit my question, go back and I could change the question title, or I could change the type of question or created. I can duplicate my question. If I want to have a copy of it, I can do that. And then I can click the trash can to delete. First sample question today. Question title, and this is your favorite color. There, if you want to, you can include help text, although that may not always be depending on the type of question you're asking. There's a spot here where you can check off to make this a required question. If I make this a required question, that who's ever taking my survey will need to answer that question before they're able to submit it. And there'll be a red asterisk next to those particular questions. Once I've got my question typed, in the question title text box, I've chopped that I want to make it required, and I can click on Done, and it'll answer that question. The second question, you can see it's highlighted, sort of in manila color. I'm going to go ahead and edit this one. And there's 7 different types of questions that you can choose from when you're creating your form or survey. So we have a single box, which is what I used for the first question. You can check boxes, drop-down lists, multiple choice, paragraph text, scale, and a grid question. One, I'm going to do, what are your favorite subjects in school. And I want students to be able to list all of their favorite subjects. I'm going to tell them here in the help text that they can actually use more than just one. Down below, this is where I can select my question type, and I'm going to do check, type in my different options. Option that you can add a box where they can add their own response, so I can click Add Other, and they'll provide them a place to type in their own answer. And then make this a required question, and the ink done to save. Created those 2 sample questions. If you'd like to add additional questions to your form or survey, I'm going to use the Add Item button. Third question, I'm going to do a paragraph text. And this is different than text response. So this is going to provide a larger area for your recipients to type in so they can do a longer text-based answer. So this is going to be, do you have any hobbies? As some help text, please tell me about any hobbies you're interested in. May not make this required because the students who may not want to share what their hobbies are, or person may not have any, so I can just click done, and I'm not required. So if they want to submit the survey, they can, but they don't have to answer this question. I'm going to do a drop-down list. It's going to be whose homeroom are you in? In my options. And all I have to do is hit return, and it'll move down and create another spot. So it'll automatically create more spaces, whether you're doing a checkbox or whether you're doing multiple choice or drop down. It'll automatically create those additional boxes for you. Required. I've got my 4 questions. I'm doing this, and this is going to be a scale. So scale question, scale of 1 to 10, and you enjoy reading. And a scale, so I can do 0 to 1, I'm going to do 1 to 10, so I'm going to change that. One is not so much, and 10 is going to be really enjoy it. Make that required. The next is multiple choice. To see if they have any siblings at Northfield Elementary. Here, or yes. This required. go back up to Add Item, and we're going to do the final type of question, which is Grid. And parents to volunteer to come in and help out in the classroom. And set up my grid. And rows, one for the morning and one for the afternoon. And to make this required, since some parents may not want to volunteer in the classroom. So now I've did my questions for my survey. And again, I could continue to add items. I would just go back up to that Add Item and from one of these 7 different choices. Really nice things about forms is you can easily rearrange the questions in order you want. All you need to do is move your mouse over the question. So for example, if I want to make the question the first in my do siblings at Northfield Elementary, I just click on it and I can drag it to the top. What's your favorite color? Or this question, do you hobbies? Same thing. I can just click on it and I just drag it up and I rearrange the order. Change any of these. Again, I can just click on the pencil, which is to edit, and I can go back in and additional I might need. All right, see, the first step in creating your survey would be to go through, think about the different question types you would want to use, or the questions you're going to ask, or what you need for your survey. And then once I have these set up, I can actually look at what the survey looks like if I was to give somebody the where it is live. Down at the bottom of the form there is a link, and this is this blue here. And if I click that, it'll go to the live form. This is what someone would see if I gave them the web link to take the form to this website and they could fill it out. But it's pretty plain right now. So what we're going to do is dress it up a little bit. So I'm going to go back to my form. And you can apply a theme to your form. So if your next item button, I can click where it says theme point, and I can just open different themes. Oops. There, let me open this back up. So my name, like the full screen. It's not letting me choose a theme, but if you click on theme, there are, like I said, about 100 different themes that you can choose from. And you can click on them, you can preview it, and see what it'll look like. It'll automatically change the entire look of your form or survey. There's some questions up here at the top. First of all, you can allow users to edit responses. So if you check that box off, when you send this out to whoever your recipients are, they will be able to change the response once they've submitted your survey. And there's two ways that they can do this, one of which is there will be a link in the confirmation that they receive after they've submitted your survey. And then they can also do that from within the email if you happen to email the survey to them. To require if you are using Google Apps for Education, you require people in your domain to sign in, and then you also have it automatically collect the respondents' names. So what they'll have to do before they're able to take the survey, they'll have to sign in with their Google Apps for Education account, and they'll automatically collect their names when they submit the survey. There's really any way to stop them from submitting it more than once. For when they do submit it, you will have their name and also a time and date stamp, since the if they've submitted it more than once and when the latest submission was. Then more actions, we can click on Edit Confirmation, and you can customize the message that recipients will receive once you've sent them the form or survey. Delete what's here. Say completing the new student survey. And you can publish a summary of responses. Will allow those who have taken your survey to see how everybody else has responded. So they leave that checked. They will leave an email with a summary of those responses. If you don't want that to happen, you can leave that unchecked. They can also require them to sign if you're using Google Apps for Education to that summary. So that all set up. I've got my theme. I've got my questions created. I've set different options. Now I have several different ways that I can share this form. So ways to do that is that you can email it to them, and if I click up here at the top, email this form, I can my recipients' email addresses, or if I'm using Google Contacts, I could type in the name of a group I created in Google Contacts, automatically fill in all the email addresses from that particular group. Include the form in the survey. You can include the email. So when they receive it, if they're using Gmail, they can automatically fill it out within the email. So I can and set this. We can see what this looks like. My Gmail account, and if I click on the survey, right inside the email. So when they can go in there, they can fill this out. And click submit, it'll fill that information or data in my spreadsheet. Now, not using Gmail, they can click this link within the email, and again, that'll take them to live form on the web. So just simply provide them with the URL, which is down here at the bottom. But if you're going to do that, I probably would use some kind of URL shortener, like Google's URL shortener, just to make it a little bit easier. But you could certainly publish that in a school newsletter or in your classroom newsletter. And then the other way that you can share this out, besides using email or URL, is that you can embed it in a Google site. a sample site that I set up. Full site, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit Page. My cursor, basically anywhere I want to embed that form. So I'm going to leave my cursor here. I go to Insert and go to Spreadsheet Form. Pulls all of the forms that are in my Google Docs account. So click on Northfield Element Student Survey. I just select that one. And include a border around it. You can do the title, and you can adjust the size, change the width, maybe to pixels, and I click Save. And then the form is saved. This web page will be embedded in my website. So they'll write to my website. They can fill out the form and edit it to my Google Docs account. Those are the 3 different ways that you can share your form with your recipients. You can email it to them. Using Gmail, it'll be embedded in the email. You can provide the URL, and you can actually embed the form website or blog. Look at the questionnaire, and look about 11 people have completed this. And you'll see over here we've got a time and date for everyone who has submitted the form, that time and date stamp. Because I didn't require anyone to sign in, this is anonymous. So if you're using a personal Google account, one of your questions that you probably want to make, if you do want to know who submitted your form, is, what is your name, or have that person type in their name and make that a required question. If you are using Google Apps for Education, you can require them to sign in, and you actually get the username. Open, and I can do something else, and this data will automatically populate inside of this spreadsheet. Can do here, there is a form menu that I can use, and you'll see in the parentheses there, how many people have submitted the form. So there we go, someone just submitted it, and in the menu you get a couple different options. You can edit the form, so you can actually go back, and if you want to change any of your questions, if I click that, it'll open up the form editor, and I can go back and change any of my questions or delete a question if I want to do that. I can send the form. I click on Send Form, and I can email it to additional people. So there's additional people that I need to submit it to me. Go to the live form and look at it out on the web. So if I click that, out to the live form, and one of the themes that I applied is Zen Spring. You can email the recipients, and this is pretty cool because if you have people who haven't submitted a survey yet, or the form needs a deadline that needs to be completed by February 2nd or something like that, you can go back, and any of the people who you've emailed the form to, you can email them again and remind them that they need to complete the form. Embed form in a web page. If you're not using Google Sites for your web page, it will put the code that you need to embed that in another site or blog. also equally important, accepting responses. If that check, people will be able to submit this form. So if we go back, again, if you set a deadline, you say this needs to be completed by such and such date, once that date has passed or lapsed, you can uncheck that, and people will no longer be able to submit your form or survey. Uncheck that, no one will be able to submit this. Please delete your form if you want. Now, since you can look at that data, obviously right now we're looking at a spreadsheet, but if I click on show summary of responses, how everybody's answered so far. Graphs, a couple charts. And want to print this data, you could use your print screen or use the print menu in your browser. This is a spreadsheet. You can also, create charts, analyze your data from Google Spreadsheets. So if your data further, you can create charts, you can create graphs, you can insert more sheets if you want to. You can sort and perform operations, insert columns to add your own content. So if that summary of responses isn't quite what you're looking for, you then have the opportunity to use charts and graphs and look at your data a little bit deeper. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that one of the neat features, and this is one that I use, is that you can actually have it send you notifications. If you click on the share button in the top right-hand corner and click on set notification rules, you have it email you for a variety of different behaviors. And so one of the ones that I use is I have it send me an email right away when somebody has submitted a form. We pick any one of these different options, such as, if any changes are made, if any rules are changed, the user submits the form, and they can have it either email you, once a day or email you that information right away. I talk about some of the integration ideas with Google Forms and ways that you can use this. One of which would be for seeing quizzes and tests. You can set up Google Forms automatically grade quizzes and tests that create, and very easy to do. There's actually a template to do this, and it would just be one of the ways that you could utilize forms. Another would be for observation records or walkthroughs. I worked with several districts in the state of Ohio that are using mobile devices and forms, with administrators to do their walkthroughs. So it easily set within Google Docs, and then they can access that on a mobile device. I actually use this for our tech support. So whenever one of our employees has an issue, they submit this form, use that notification, so as soon as they submit that form to me, I receive an email, and then I can deal with whatever issues may arise. Requests, so if you have any clubs in your school or district, they can use a form for that. There are a bunch of different ideas as well for technology inventory, staff surveys, mortgage count, class behavior, evaluations, peer feedback, content form, comprehensive questions, weekly record, prior learning assessment, and library book review. So there's different ways that you use Google Forms in your school or classroom. Really said it's a list. So the resources that I provided for today's webinar, the first one on using Google Forms is actually a handout that will walk you through the basic steps of creating a form. So you can download that in PDF form. This is Google Forms for the classroom and integrating Google Tools for teachers. Those are both two sites that provide additional ideas for using Google Forms in the classroom. And provided the resources from Google. So there's the Google Forms Help, Docs YouTube channel, and Google Apps YouTube channel as well. So Dana, let's see if there's any questions.
So I'm answering some questions throughout the presentation, but if any of you have some more questions, if you could please ask them into the Q&A text box, and we can have Sean or myself answer them. And while waiting for anybody who wants to ask any additional questions, there's going to be another webinar at this same time next week that will be intermediate and advanced forms. So I just saw a question come in about branched forms. Yes, that is possible, and it'll be covered in next week's webinar, so you can tune in at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And there is a way to do branched forms with multiple choice answers. So I've heard of people who do it, and you can use that to select, for example, which grade you're in or which grade your student is in, which would have a different kind of questions, or what language do you speak, and then they enter in different languages for the form for parents to enter in. Somebody just asked, are we going to receive this presentation and resources? Yes. You will receive an email tomorrow with links to Sean's presentation, his resource handouts, as well as the recorded webinar. So you'll be able to get all of those resources via email sometime tomorrow. Another tip that I have in terms of the Google Apps for Education product, Forms is kind of what we like to introduce to administrators who are hesitant about using Google Apps, just because of the usefulness that you can see in administrating a school or a classroom. So for those of you who are thinking about using Google Apps or trying to convince your district or school to use Google Apps, Forms is one of the best ways to get them on board and show them the magic. Question about how can you register for next week's session. There is a blog post on the Google Enterprise blog that has links to the next 5 webinars. It's googlenterprise.blogspot.com. That's actually a great website, a great blog to tune into for Google Apps updates. Also the Google Docs blog and the Gmail blog for other information. But googlenterprise.blogspot.com, you'll be able to see, if you scroll down a bit, you'll see a blog post with links to the next webinars. And Sean mentioned them at the beginning. But next week is Intermediate Advanced Forms. The week after that, we have a webinar on how to use Google Apps as part of the Google Science Fair, the first online science fair that we launched 2 weeks ago. One on managing your Google Docs in your classroom to share with students and teachers and your peers, and another one on how to actually build a class site with Google Sites that will go into some of the more intermediate and advanced features. So let's see, we have a couple more questions here. What is the best way to introduce Google Apps to teachers? I actually find, and Sean, you can put your 2 cents in here as well, since you work with a lot of teachers to bring them Google Apps. Forms is one of the most popular ways to show teachers about Google Apps and the power of it. One is that when you have Google Apps for Education, you can collect a user's username so that whenever somebody submits a form, you know exactly who submitted it because they have a Google Apps account and you know who that person is. And also the instantaneous nature of it and the paperless aspect and not having to sort through different papers and getting the instant analysis with the summary. So one of the best ways that I've used to show teachers about Google Apps. Sean, do you have any other suggestions on the best ways to introduce Google Apps to teachers?
Formed an excellent way, and as far as some of the districts I've gone into, a lot of teachers are creating those self-grading quizzes, and like you said, that data automatically populates in a spreadsheet. They enter their formulas, and I think it's a real eye-opener as to just how easy it is to use and how powerful.
And so ask, it would be nice if we are able to designate what is the right answer for a question so we can automate test scoring. So I think we will also be covering this next week in Intermediate Advanced webinar, but it is possible to set up formulas and scripts so that you have an automatic grading form. And it is hidden from the user because it takes place, all the calculations take place in the spreadsheet. So as long as your students have access to the full spreadsheet and they're only looking at the form, then they won't be able to see what the right answers are. Also some templates in the Google Docs template gallery. If you look under Forms, there are several, or if you just do a search in the Google Docs template gallery and you search for automatic grading or auto grading templates, you should be able to find some there as well. And again, I would encourage you to tune in next week because we'll go over some of those more advanced topics. We also have, if you're not aware, the Google Apps for Education Online Training Center, and I'll enter in the URL, and it'll also be in your email tomorrow, but it's edutraining.googleapps.com, and there's a section in there, in the spreadsheet section, or in the docs section, that is dedicated to forms, where you can go through some of these things step by step. It also gives some tips and tricks for how you might go about using formulas to do something like auto grading. Let's see. I don't have any more questions that are coming up here. Sean, did you have any closing remarks you might add?
Just that, like I say, Google Forms is a great resource, and I see lots of people, excited about using it, and certainly, like you pointed out, with administrators. I did training around, it was in December, with a whole bunch of administrators, and they really, to that, like I said, being able to create their, observation records and their walkthroughs, and have that all Google Docs accounts, and on their mobile devices is huge.
That is something that for like teacher observation walkthroughs, Google Forms, the hyperlink is really mobile friendly. So it turns out really well on iPhones, on Android phones, on iPod touches. So if a principal is walking through using Google Forms and being able to enter that information and submit and have it instantly appear in a spreadsheet has been very useful for many schools that I've talked to. There's one last question about how Google is thinking about learning management systems and virtual learning environments. So for now, if you haven't heard Google Apps Marketplace, I would encourage you to take a look at it. You can just do a search for Google Apps Marketplace on Google. Today, I actually just launched a new product category for education-specific apps in the Google Apps Marketplace. So what are basically, if you have Google Apps for Education at your school or district, you can be able to add kind of 30 web apps that actually integrate with your Google Apps account. For example, we have LearnBoost, which is an online grade book. So if you add that app to your domain, then people can just use LearnBoost and have it tie in with their Google Apps account. We also have Grocket, which is a social e-learning application. So I'd say that we're really trying to grow our Google Apps Marketplace and let other education technology companies that work on different pieces of a learning management system take advantage of the Google Apps platform for integrating and reaching more and more schools. So that's what I would say now. And if you want to learn more about the education product category launch, you can, again, look at that googleenterprise.blogspot.com. And the blog post, as well as a video and a list of the 23 applications that are now available in that EDU product category in the marketplace. Looks like one more question here. Is it possible to integrate Google Apps with the Moodle platform? So there is a company that worked on an integration called Moodle Rooms, and I think if you just do a Google search for Moodle Rooms and Google Apps, you'll be able to find it. I believe the project is hosted on code.google.com. There are ways such that you can integrate your Moodle single sign-on with Google Apps and have some other integrations available.
There's a bunch of districts actually in Ohio that are doing that, are integrating Moodle with Google Apps for Education.
One last question about how much does it cost for the apps? So Google Apps for Education is free for educational institutions. In terms of the apps that are in the marketplace, the prices vary. Sort of a freemium model where you get something for free, and if you pay additional price per user, you get additional functionality. I'm not exactly sure about the pricing on each of the 23 products that are available now in the education category, but most of them are providing their services at a discount than what they would otherwise. There are also several non-education specific products that are also great to integrate into the marketplace, such as Moon, which I think is a kind of project planning platform, and lots of teachers and administrators are taking advantage of that, and I believe that that is free to use. Right. Let's see. So it's about 10 minutes left. We're going to go ahead and close this webinar. Again, this webinar has been recorded, so you'll be able to receive all of Sean's resources, his presentation, the links to the other things that I mentioned here in the Q&A section, as well as the recorded webinar, and links to the other webinars if you're interested in registering for them as well. So thank you again for joining us, and we hope that you'll tune in next week for our intermediate and advanced forms. And thank you, Sean, for leading this webinar.